Davey Allison is racing down the track. Oh no, what on earth just happened?
David Carl Allison, also known as Davey Allison, was a NASCAR star who had won the 1992 Daytona 500, NASCAR's Super Bowl. He was on his way to possibly winning the Winston Cup championship, but fate had a different plan for him. On July 12, 1993, Davey took his confidence off the racetrack and took to the skies to fulfill his newfound passion for flying. What was supposed to be a quick helicopter flight turned into the ultimate pilot test. This is the story of Davey Allison.
Davey Allison, a racer from Alabama, a man who meant so much to so many.
Davey Allison's need for speed was ingrained from his childhood. Born on February 25, 1961 in Hollywood, Florida, he was part of a racing family. His father, Bobby Allison, was a legendary racer and one of the original members of the Alabama Gang, a group that dominated NASCAR in the 1960s and 1970s. Davey grew up with cars and racetracks, developed a passion for speed and racing, and followed in his father's footsteps as a racer. He began racing seriously at the age of 17 and quickly rose through the ranks with his talent and skill. In 1985, at the age of 24, he made his NASCAR Winston Cup Series debut in the Talladega 500, driving for Haas Ellington's team. His performance was amazing. He finished 10th in his debut race, which was a strong start to his NASCAR career. In 1987, he won the NASCAR Rookie of the Year award. Davey was fast becoming a true NASCAR legend. But Davey's aggressive driving style didn't come without serious risks. He was involved in several life-threatening crashes early in his career. In April 1992, Davey injured his ribs and lower back in a crash at Bristol Motor Speedway. The hardest hit came 2 months later at Pocono Raceway, when Davey's car spun out of control and overturned 11 times in the grassy field after colliding with Darrell Waltrip's car. He suffered multiple injuries, including a broken and dislocated right wrist, a broken collarbone, a broken right forearm, and multiple facial bruises. But this was not all. The story becomes even more heartbreaking. Davey was part of a racing family plagued by tragedy. His brother Clifford, a promising NASCAR driver, passed away in a 1992 crash at Michigan International Speedway. His father, Bobby Allison, was involved in a near-death crash when his car flew over the guardrail and into the catch fence. But all these setbacks did not cause Davey to slow down. Quite the contrary. Davey persevered despite the setbacks and solidified his status among racing's elite. By 1992, he captured 5 checkered flags and contended for the Winston Cup championship. At just 31 years old, it seemed Davey's best days were still ahead. But fate had other plans for the rising star. On July 12, 1993, around 2:15 p.m. Central Daylight Time, Davey Allison and his good friend and veteran race car driver, Red Farmer, took off from Birmingham, Alabama in his recently purchased Hughes 369 HS helicopter. Their destination was the Talladega Superspeedway racetrack, the track where he had won his first Cup Series race and where his father had been severely injured in a crash in 1987. There he went to watch his family friend Neil Bonnet and his son David Bonnet test a car for David's Busch Series debut. Davey had only recently gotten his pilot's license and had only about 54 hours of flying experience in a helicopter, including 9 hours in a Hughes 369 HS. But that day, something went horribly wrong. As they approached their destination, the Talladega Superspeedway track, Davey tried to land the helicopter in the infield of the track surrounded by power lines and high fences. Red, who was in the passenger seat of the helicopter, recalled that upon landing, everything seemed to be normal until about 6 inches to 1 foot above the ground. He said at that point, the helicopter appeared to turn to the right approximately 30 degrees and then rapidly ascended to a height above the power line poles. Around 14:55 CDT, the helicopter suddenly crashed and hit the terrain on the left side. The impact was so violent and devastating that the helicopter was mangled and twisted, and the cockpit was completely crushed. Davey and Red were trapped in the wreckage and had to be removed by rescue workers. At the time, they were both alive, but were severely injured. They were transferred to a hospital in Birmingham. The news of the crash spread quickly and created a huge shock in the racing world and among the public. Many people, including drivers, crew members, officials, and fans, gathered at the hospital, hoping and praying for a miracle. During this sad moment, memories surfaced of previous tragedies that had struck the family, such as Davey's father's near-fatal accident in 1988 in Pocono Raceway, and the passing of Davey's brother Clifford during a racing practice in 1992. Shortly before this accident, in April 1993, a true NASCAR star, Alan Kulwicki, had passed away in a plane crash. People wondered how much more pain and loss the sport and family could endure, but unfortunately, their worst nightmares became reality.
Unexpected death has been an all too dominant story in sports.
The helicopter he was piloting crashed at Talladega Motor Speedway.
He passed away the next day on July 13, 1993, surrounded by his friends and family. At the time, he was only 32 years old. His passing was announced by his brother-in-law, and the hospital chaplain read a statement from his wife Liz, who thanked everyone for their support and prayers. She also mentioned that Davey had donated his organs and that his heart, along with other organs, had helped save the lives of others. Furthermore, she said that Davey had always wanted to help others. The National Transportation Safety Board examined the helicopter's wreckage, weather conditions, flight data, and Davey's experience and training. Davey held a private pilot's certificate with airplane single-engine, multi-engine, helicopter, and instrument airplane ratings. He had logged a total of about 1,073 flying hours. In July 1992, he obtained his helicopter pilot's license, which included approximately 54 hours of flying in helicopters. Of these hours, he had approximately 9 hours of experience flying a Hughes 369HS helicopter, during which he had received 2.8 hours of flight instruction. The remaining flight hours were gained primarily during his training for the helicopter pilot's license, primarily in a Robinson R-22 helicopter. The National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, concluded that the probable cause of the accident was the pilot's decision to land in a confined space with many obstacles and downwind without adequately compensating for the tailwind. An additional factor was the pilot's limited experience with the type of aircraft involved. They also interviewed witnesses and survivors. According to witness statements, the helicopter attempted to land in a fenced-in area of the pit area known as the media parking lot. The media parking lot is a paved area about 168 feet long and 105 feet wide, surrounded by 10-foot-high fences on the south, east, and north sides. At the western end of the area was a power line about 26 feet high. Witnesses stated that the aircraft approached the intended landing site from the south to the north. Once over the landing area, the aircraft began to descend very slowly from an altitude of 50 feet to about a foot above the terrain. The helicopter then began to rock from side to side. After that, the helicopter climbed to an altitude of about 25 feet and began turning counterclockwise. The helicopter then made an abrupt turn to the left, making contact with both the terrain and a 10-foot-high fence near the original landing site. In addition, witnesses reported that the aircraft's engine continued to run for about 20 minutes after the collision. Inspection of the fuel lines revealed no vacuum leaks. The throttle and the pilot's collective were found to be in the fully open position. The crash had a very profound and lasting impact on the NASCAR community and the fans. Davey's funeral, which was held on July 16, 1993, at the First Baptist Church in Hueytown, Alabama, where he grew up, drew an immense crowd of over 4,000 people, including many NASCAR drivers, such as Dale Earnhardt, Bill Elliott, Rusty Wallace, and Mark Martin. His casket was draped with his racing suit helmet, and his car number, 28, was displayed on the church's sign. He was buried at the Highland Memorial Gardens in Bessemer, Alabama, next to his brother, Clifford. Davey Allison's passing had a devastating effect on his family, especially his wife and children. Liz Allison, struggling with the loss and the challenge of raising their children, wrote a book titled Davey Allison, A Celebration of Life. This book, published in 1995, serves as a photographic tribute to Davey Allison, detailing his career and life. Davey's children, Krista and Robbie Allison, grew up without their biological father, but they both became involved in motorsport. Robbie inherited his father's love of motorsports and expressed it by being active in late model racing, taking 2 victories at Anderson Motor Speedway in South Carolina. Krista Allison chose a different path to honor her father's motorsports career. She worked as a public relations representative for several NASCAR teams, illustrating her commitment to the racing world and continuing her father's legacy in her own unique way. Davey Allison left behind a rich and remarkable legacy, both on and off the track. He was one of the most successful and popular drivers in NASCAR history, and one of the most influential figures in the sport's evolution and growth. Furthermore, he was a loving and generous person, admired and respected by his colleagues and adored by his fans. Following his tragic passing, Davey Allison was honored with numerous awards as a token of deep appreciation for his unforgettable contribution to motorsports. His induction into the International Motorsports Hall of Fame in 1998 was just the beginning of a series of honors. In 2005, he was immortalized in the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame, and in 2019, his name was added to the NASCAR Hall of Fame with great honor. His legend lived on when he was posthumously named one of NASCAR's 50 best drivers, a reminder of his indelible influence on the racing world. The iconic number 28, which had become synonymous with Allison's racing legacy, remained a fixture on NASCAR tracks, lined by various drivers and teams, as a lasting tribute to his passion and talent.